Welcome to another Alfresco video. We are covering today the topic to migrate from search services to search services enterprise. So remember that this option is only available for enterprise deployments by now. So these search services is relying in Solr as searching engine, while search services is relying in Elasticsearch or OpenSearch as a searching engine. What we are covering today is a step-by-step guide. So we are going through a practical exercise with a sample source code to move from an existing source ACS deployment with search services with Solr to an target ACS deployment with Search Enterprise running OpenSearch. So the steps are quite simple. The first thing we need to do is to identify the custom content models in our source ACS deployment. Then we need to extract the namespaces and the namespace mapping to a file. So we need to map the namespace with the prefix, and we need to save that to a file because we are going to use that later on the reindexing. After that, we are going to prepare the reindexing application. Just quite simple, download the reindexing application, verify that all the required resources are available, and after that, we can start to prepare the target ACS deployment. So we need a source ACS deployment and also a target ACS deployment for this operation. On the ACS deployment, we are going to use a replica of the database. We are going to use the existing content store, so the existing file system. We need to deploy all the custom models that were present on the source ACS deployment. And then we need to create the index, the initial index with all these content models definition in Elasticsearch or OpenSearch. OpenSearch in the sample we are going to see. And finally, we are ready to run the reindexing application to populate the index in OpenSearch. So let's move to the first step. So the first step is to identify custom content models in our source ACS deployment. There are three different ways of deploying content model, custom content model to Alfresco. So the first one is to create an XML file with the definition and to upload this to repository data dictionary models folder. We need to check the isActive property in order to enable this content model to be used. The second one is to deploy a content model using an add-on, an AMP or jar, and to deploy that to the repository. And the third one is to build the content model with the model manager feature in this application. Let's move to the practical part. Let's create a sample containing all these different content model deployments so we can experiment with it. You have a supporting GitHub project available in Avoid Search Services to Search Enterprise with different folders inside and also with all the steps in order to apply this configuration. So the first one is, remember that as we are using enterprise version, you need credential for Quay.io, where the enterprise Docker images are stored, are published for Alfresco Enterprise, and also Alfresco Nexus credentials to download the Alfresco reindexing application. So with that, we can just prepare the source ACS. We have, so yes, let's start with it. So we have Docker composition. We are going to review that with ACS 23.1 relying in Solr. So let's start this. And as I said, this is just simple Docker compose, just deploying Alfresco. also with the transform core. We are not using the transform service in this case with the SER and digital workspace UI applications, Postgre as database, and Solr 6. So search services for the indexing, and also we have the ActiveMQ and the proxy. So once this is downloading, when this is started, we can deploy all the three different content models to the repository. Now that Alfresco is up and ready, we can move to the SER web application. Yes, let me type that. And we are going to deploy all these content models with the different options we have. So you have also these models on the GitHub project. This is for the data dictionary. We're going to load this one to the data dictionary. We have an add-on that is including the Acme model, and we have also an export for the model manager tool. So the first thing we can do is just to deploy the first content model into repository data dictionary models folder. So for that, we have this custom content model. Remember that you need to activate this content model in order to be used. So we check the model active, and this is a simple content model that is related to call for papers. So the second way of doing that is just to use the model manager. So you can define your model manager manually if you want, but in this case, we are also importing and already defined this conference model.zip. We are importing this content model with different types and aspect. And remember that we need also to activate the content model in order to be used. Additionally, what we have is an add-on that is already deployed that also includes an additional content model. So for that, we can explore the repository again. And we can verify the module is deployed. So with that, on the system registry, we have the Acme content model that is a simple add-on that contains a model definition, in this case, the Acme definition. So with that, we have all the three content models in place. And the next step is to populate the repository with documents belonging to all these three content models. Remember that I'm just creating a demo repository, a fake repository, in order to get some different content models inside in order to test later the migration to Elasticsearch connector. But it should be present in your repository. So you just need to check all these three different sources for your content models to control they exist. To create these content models, I'm going to not to create the content models are still present on the repository. To create the content associated to these content models, I'm going to use the Alfresco CLI application. So you can download this Alfresco Go CLI from this project on the releases. Just choose the right architecture, the right operating system, and just download the binary. So now we have the binary, and the first thing we need to do is to connect with the repository. Okay, so for that, you have also the instructions on this on the documentation. So we just need to set the repository and the credentials. So yes, let's do this. So with that, we are connected to the repository with the right credentials, and then we can create the custom content. So to create the custom content, I'm just uploading three different files, and these files are from different types. So proposal, document, and presentation. So yes, let's create this custom content. So with that, we have a folder in Solr files, and that is including all these different files from the different models we already created. So we have a prepared repository with different content models and using different methods to deploy the content model. And after that, what we need is just to download the mapping of the namespace with the prefix, so we can use that later in the reindexing process. There is also this Alfresco Labs model NX prefix mapping project deployed on the repository. So again, let's check that we have this, and with that deploy, what we can do is just to download this prefix mapping and to save that as a file. So for that, we can just download this reindex prefix file JSON and save that on the reindexing environment. So we can just download the file with all the different elements, and we can check that all our custom content models are present. Okay, so we are ready to go. We have the source repository prepared. So let's move to the next step. As I was saying before, we need to use this project to create, or to download this file with the mapping of all of the different content models, custom content models present in your repository. And then we just need to prepare the reindexing application. So the application is available in Alfresco Nexus, and remember that you need to use customer credentials. So on the Alfresco Nexus, you can find the application, and then you just need to download the application using these credentials. So we have all this prepared. It will download eventually. And then we can also verify that our target ACS deployment includes all the resources that are going to be used by the reindexing app. So this reindexing app for indexing the metadata is just accessing directly to the Alfresco database. Inside the Alfresco database, we need to retrieve the max ID of the Alf node table. So you can do that simply in this way. And we need to check that this connection is available. Also, this reindexing application is using the file we downloaded, this reindex prefix file JSON, to get the metadata indexed in OpenSearch in this case. So for indexing, we are going to create a direct link with the OpenSearch server. If we want also to index content, then we need the ActiveMQ available from the reindexing application environment and the transfer service. So these elements, these services, are required if we want to index also the content. So this is why we created on the sample project this Docker ESC Elasticsearch connector that includes all these resources. So the transfer router available. We have also the Postgres database available, the Elasticsearch, OpenSearch in this case, server available, and the live indexing application that is connecting with all of them that will take care later of the updates on the repository. And finally, the ActiveMQ is also available. So we check that every resource is available for the reindexing application. So the first thing we need to do is to replicate the database. So we have the original, the source ACS with Solr running. So we can stop this, and our replica would be like quite simple. So we are just copying the data from the original, from the source to the target deployment of ACS. So just let's stop that. And let's copy this database. We have the data, and inside the data we have the Postgres data. So we are going to copy this data to the OpenSearch deployment. So we have this deployment with the data directory, including the Postgres data, and on the compose YAM, we are going to use exactly the same content store. So we are reading from the original content store and using a replica of the database. So let's start this one, this target ACS repository with OpenSearch on it, and let's check that everything is working as expected. Okay, so once this is ready, we can verify that the content models are deployed. Remember that the content models of the data dictionary folder and also from the model manager are already there because we are using the same content store. And for all the add-ons, we have deployed also the Acme model to this target ACS deployment. So once we have that, we have all the custom model deployed, we need to create in OpenSearch the index. So for that, the simple way of doing that is just to access to the workspace. We can create a simple identification, and then to click search. So we can see that with that, the Elasticsearch mapping with the custom content model is created. In fact, if we use the endpoint for Elasticsearch to check that, we can see that the mapping is created, and we have also all the properties already there. So once we have everything in place, so the replica of the database, we are reusing the content store, the file system, all the content models are there, and the index is created in OpenSearch. So we are ready to run the reindexing app. So for this, what we need in this case is that we are using this reindex by IDs with different page and batch size and concurrent processors, and we are indexing everything till the last node in the repository, till the last ID on the Alf node table. After that, we are going to index also content. So we need the transfer service URL. We need also the ActiveMQ URL. We need to index in the OpenSearch in this case. So we need also the URL for the OpenSearch server, and we are connecting the database using this port. And finally, also we need the file we got from the source ACS. So with that, we have the reindexing application that we downloaded from Nexus. We have also the reindex prefixes file JSON that we obtain from the source ACS deployment, and we can just run the reindexing application with the parameters we set before. So with that, the process is starting, is reading all the different nodes to be indexed, and is just creating the metadata and also the content in the Elasticsearch index. So we can see that we have success with it. So we can go back to the application just to test that everything is working as expected. So we have this document that is already indexed, and with that we are done. So we have the migration done, and we can start using this new environment. Remember that if you are reindexing a large repository, then you can use this standard Spring Batch approach, that is the remote partitioning. So it's a bit more complex, but it allows you to index in parallel the repository, creating different workers for every section of the repository. So with that, we review a practical use case on how to move from search services from the legacy system that was relying in Solr to the new one, to Search Enterprise, that is relying in OpenSearch or Elasticsearch. Remember that the steps are quite simple. Just verify your existing installation to understand all the models and to extract the mapping for the namespace and the prefixes. Then we need to prepare the reindexing environment. And finally, we can just run the reindexing operation in this new environment to get the OpenSearch, in this case, or Elasticsearch index populated. I hope that was useful, and see you next time.